Good day and welcome to another broadcast of Venture Capital Fund. In the event that you're joining me for the first time, um, just know that Venture Capital Fund is designed to focus on private sector development issues. In this program, we look at issues that are relevant to small, medium, and large scale businesses. We look at issues relating to capital and the high cost for capital, and we also look at unique systems that really helps you to mitigate your debt, bring down the debt cost, and how to achieve smart capital leverage. So in the event that you're a business owner or intend to get into business, this is the program for you. I want to encourage you to find us on YouTube, Venture Capital Fund, and like our programs, subscribe to those programs, and you will be the first to get these programs that we are bringing to you on a daily basis. Today, we will continue to look at value proposition, and we will dig a little deeper into the concept related to value proposition. Yesterday, we began looking at that subject matter, and I did promise that today we will go a little deeper. And today we will look at what we call the checklist of value proposition. And I want to promise you that we're going to be looking at some pretty interesting subject matter here. There are three main concepts that you will walk away with today. One, you will walk away with a better understanding of what are your value proposition characteristics. Two, you will be able to look at what are the strengths of your value proposition. And last but not least, you will be able to know more about your value proposition and corporate purpose. So those are three essential things that we will dig deep into them to really help you to understand when you're building your value proposition, what are some of the essential things to look for. In the event that you're joining me for the first time, my name is Gary Thompson. I'm a business development consultant by profession. I'm a humanitarian by nature, and I'm the multiple best-selling author for several books, including Manager's Toolkit and Billionaire Codes. These two books are already bestsellers, so I want to encourage you to log on to our sister company website, which is www.megamoneygy.com. On the front page, you will see these books. You can purchase these books anywhere in the world. You can also subscribe to that website, and you will get daily updates on the contents that we are bringing out on this program. So strap yourself in today and let's get the process moving along. Welcome again. Today we want to continue on discussing value proposition. And one of the main reasons why we are looking at these content is that we want businesses to have the staying power. We see many business startup start and fail. We see many businesses, over 20% of businesses that get started fail within the first year. 20% fail within year one, and over 50% fail within 5 years. So we're concerned about that, and we have made the decision that we are going to be providing a content of information to businesses that really helps them to better navigate some of the rough terrains of doing business. So when we talk about value proposition, and you bring this content to you, we bring this content to you. So when you're developing your business, your ideas, and your brand, you build it up with a strong enough proposition that when you apply purpose to what you're doing, you have greater significance, greater motive to do what you do, and you're most likely to have the power to stay in business. So let us start examining the second phase of value proposition. Today, we're going to be doing what we call the value propositions checklist, or developing the value proposition sustainability game plan. You can call it that. One of the first things that is important for you to recognize is, what is a value proposition? A value proposition is a promise that you make to the consumer. The value proposition is a contract between you and the consumer. But who exactly is the consumer? In our context, we're saying to you that the consumer is not only the public, the consumer is your internal workforce. So it is necessary for you to build out your value proposition to capture both parties' interests, the external workforce and the external public and the internal workforce. Now, to make this happen, we dovetail this onto something that we call your corporate culture systemization. Your corporate culture systemization. So in other words, your entire value proposition becomes an entire reflection of your corporate culture and the systems that are systemized within those corporate culture to impact the external public and to impact the internal workforce. Corporate culture systemization. Let's go a little deeper into this and really help you to put some context and to do your checklist with the value proposition. So we now have the corporate culture. Well, what does the corporate culture represent or should represent? Step one, the corporate culture should represent what we call the internal impact systemization strategy. The internal impact systemization strategy. Now, what exactly is this? We did said early on that every effort that you're going to be making with your company to impact the external public, it will be a reflection of what is happening at the internal level. You must have a highly motivated workforce. You must have productivity being done on time. You must have your CSR, customer service representatives, who are well trained to deliver quality customer care. All of these things translate into the external value proposition being able to impact the external public. So the first thing that we begin by looking at in this whole process is what we call the internal impact systemization strategy. You must have a strategy to make the people at home, your team, your staff, feel comfortable, highly motivated. The system also, you want that system, the internal impact systemization strategy, must be able to speak to issues like absenteeism and staff turnover. It hurts the company, yes, but it also deflects from the value proposition, and sometimes it can carry across wrong information to the, or unintended information to the public. And think about this. You have your skilled workers. They have specialized skill sets. And they're absent for a week or two from the organization. And you need those skill sets to address the public needs. Because they are absent, it literally prevents you from leveraging the value proposition to deliver on the promise that you made to the public. So the internal workforce affects everything that happens at a public level. So designing the value proposition, it must be designed to have impact at those two levels. And you must be able to commit the time, the talent, and the resources to develop what we call the internal impact systemization strategy to impact the internal workforce. And you wanted to address issues of staff turnover, absenteeism, staff motivation, and a range of different things. In the event that you do not know how to do this, so you need more assistance to do this, at Venture Capital Fund Global Branding and Marketing, we have a team of subject matter experts that are working with businesses across the world to really help businesses to get this right. The next system that I want us to talk about, since we're talking about corporate culture systemization, the first thing we look at is the internal impact systemization strategy. The next thing that we're going to look at here is what we're going to call the external impact systemization strategy. And this requires technical skill set because this is all about the systems that you have designed to impact the external public. And how are you going to impact the external public? You want to be able to convert, or first of all, attract first-time users. And in attracting first-time users, you want to be able to convert first-time users into lifetime customers. Does your external impact systemization strategy allows you to achieve this in its design? Again, we have a team of subject matter experts that will work with you to achieve this. All right, so the first concept that we look at here is your checklist. We will say your checklist must be built around your corporate culture. Your corporate culture must have two primary objectives. It must be designed, your corporate culture systemization must be designed to achieve two things. One is the internal impact systemization strategy and the external impact systemization strategy. You want these things to be in place with your value proposition. We are talking here value proposition. So when you make a promise to the public and to the internal workforce, you have clear strategies and clear systems to achieve them. All right? Enough time and talent and resources must be built here because it is from your value proposition is where you're going to be shaping public opinions about your brand, about your products, about your ideas, about the services that you're providing. Your value proposition will be able to do that. So again, you must be able to commit enough time and talent and resources into drilling deep into what are going to be the cultures and the policies of the organization to really ensure that you have a very unique value proposition. And you must be able to live by the value proposition. And we'll talk about all of that today. So the first thing that we're looking at today is the value proposition characteristics. And all these things are characteristics that you need to see in your value proposition. All right, your characteristics, is your corporate culture. In the corporate culture, you want to ensure that you have internal impact systemization strategy set up. You want to have external impact systemization set up. All right. Now, along with this, I want us to also talk about the value proposition system consistency. Value proposition system consistency. And what exactly do I mean by this? This again is your corporate footprint. All right, is your corporate footprint. And in crafting the corporate footprint, you want to have consistency with your corporate footprint. Your corporate footprint is everything that we talked about earlier, the internal impact systemization strategy and the external impact systemization strategy. You want to have your corporate, this is your corporate footprint. Now with your corporate footprint, you want to have consistency. You want to have the value proposition built out in the systems that allows you to have consistency with your corporate footprint. So when you hit in the public domain and you start to shape public opinion, they say this represents that brand. And if there's a deviation, they must be able to say something is wrong or that is not the corporate footprint of this brand. That happens when you build in the consistency systems in your corporate footprint and you amplify visibility around that. All right, so we will work with you to establish these systems to ensure that with your value proposition, you are really adding the depths. You remove all the abstracts and and elements that is clouded from the value proposition, and you really flesh it out. So you have a clear mental picture as to what the value proposition represents. What are those checklists of the value proposition? The next thing that I want us to look at is what we call the value proposition system upgrade. Why is this necessary? It's your value proposition. It's working well. But I want to say this: in your value proposition, there are changing needs that are taking place in the local, regional, and international market. And one of those changes that we can see across the world very vividly is the impact that COVID-19 would have had on the world. In this case, let's take, for example, you own the supermarket. Consumers traditionally go to make direct purchase from supermarkets. But with COVID-19, everyone is trying to exercise caution. Everyone is trying to be more smarter in how they intermingle and interface with the general public. So they're identifying smarter, better, easier way of achieving the shopping experience without going to the physical location. So in this case, what in the developed world people are doing, they have the plastic, which we call the credit card, or the MasterCard, that allows the consumers to stay at home and make purchases of all of their supermarket items or whatever other items that they want. And a vehicle simply drop those products to their location without they visiting that location. Now, traditionally in the developed world, this is not necessarily the mode of operation. You use cash, hard-earned money, and you go make the purchase. And that is acceptable. So your value proposition captures the old traditional way of how business is done, and it does not take into consideration COVID-19 and the impact that COVID-19 is having on the world. So because of that, you are now forced to look at a system upgrade that really allows your payment system to be more universal. So someone with a credit card can just, enter their credit card information into data and make the purchase from your store. The reality is this: many purchasers today, they have to be at a physical location in the developed world with their MasterCard or their credit card, swipe that card at a physical location into a machine before they can actually, make a purchase. We have online, the internet platform that has to be utilized to accommodate those kinds of purchases. So when we talk now about system upgrade, perhaps your entire organization financial system has to be upgraded in order to accommodate shoppers, first-time and existing shoppers who wants to stay at home with their credit card, with their MasterCard, and make a purchase because of COVID-19. So it's important to have a configuration management system within the organization. The manager should have that expertise. The project management should have that expertise to quickly reconfigure the financial systems to be able to accommodate shoppers who want to stay at home and shop. And here is where you have to leave the room open for system upgrade, because some of these things can be predictable, but some is unpredictable. And you have to reconfigure some area of the management of the organization to be able to be compliant with some of the changes that are taking place in the world. So here we have the need for the value proposition and system upgrade. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is what we call the value proposition and system traceability. You want to be able to trace Your footprint. You don't want your footprint to be so light that you can't trace it. You want to be able to trace the footprint of your value proposition. It's absolutely necessary. And by this, I mean you must be able to document all of your systems. The value proposition system traceability is where you take into consideration that you must have your project management specialist, you must have your subject matter specialist that can document every single footprint of the value proposition. All of the traits and characteristics of the value proposition must be properly captured and documented. It's your value proposition that we're talking about here. It's the element of your business, the psychological, the emotional element of your business that you are building out to rest comfortably in the hearts and minds and soul of first-time and existing customers. So you want to ensure that you're committing enough time to really build out your value proposition in such a way that it can have that long-term impact on the specific target market. And you want to have system traceability. So when a new staff comes into your organization, you can train them on the value proposition. You can trace back all of the corporate footprint and you can say, this is how we do things. And you have to be compliant if you work in this department, that department, the other department. System, value proposition system consistency. You want to have this. Absolutely necessary. All right. The time where you just simply do things in business and you call it business is no longer. You want to have traceability. All right. Traceability. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about under this heading is what we call value proposition system transferability. Now, this again is very, very important, the transferability of your value proposition. Now, see yourself as a franchise owner. So you build a brand, very unique brand, might be a fast food franchise, and you build up all of these checklists of the value proposition. You want it to be transferable. And for it to be transferable is not just to say, okay, it is documented. And because it is now documented, I can just transfer it. The documentation is good. There's where you're going to have the traceability. The documentation is what's going to be, you form your policies and your systems and all of those things back. But simply handing over the document is not the way at all. Is there a need for training? What timeline should the training be for to ensure that the body of knowledge is properly transferred so as to ensure the new franchisee and their entire workforce understand your value proposition, fully internalize your value proposition, and by doing all of this, they can now communicate your value proposition to their new audience base anywhere in the world. So these are things that you must be able to have properly documented and really dig deep into the belly of your value proposition with your product. Again, we help to build small, medium, and large-scale businesses to have relevance locally, regionally, and internationally, and hence the reason why we're going through this content. We also provided this content of information because we want business startup to really start your business with the right mindset, and to also recognize that there's not an instant gratification in business success. All of these work that has to be done sometimes years before you actually open the door. There's a reason why you have to commit the time, the talent, and the resources, getting enough skin in the game before you actually open up the door. I would normally say also that speed in business establishment is not accuracy. You might be able to get the door open faster, but in terms of your system and systemizations, you're not properly doing system and systemization. So a guy can come from behind you by 1 year and 2 year and beat you because they have better systemization to optimize in the eyes of the final consumer. So these are important concepts for you to really dig into. All right, so we look at lessons 1, which is the value proposition characteristics. The things that we have looked at earlier on above looks at that. So now I want us to spend some time looking at what we call the strength of the value proposition. What is the strength of your value proposition? And I want us to really think about this. You know, sometimes you make a value proposition to the public, but the value proposition is not strong enough. So we work with you to really help you to design your value proposition to be a game changer and to be a trendsetter. Now, with your value proposition, you don't want to do something similar that the other person is doing. You don't want to offer a similar value proposition that somebody in the market is offering, because your value proposition may not be strong enough to really inspire and influence and first-time users to give you the swing vote. So you want your value proposition to be the game changer. You want your value proposition to become the trend setter. And as you come into our masterclass, we will be giving you a plethora of information that you can do in making this happen. All right. And what if your value proposition says that we're going to give back $1 million monthly to your customers, first-time users? I'm just saying it's food for thought, right? Your value proposition can say much more than all of this. But in developing your value proposition, you want to make a promise to the internal and external public, internal workforce and external public, that is strong enough, all right, for them to say, wow. So you want to build a strong value proposition that is the game changer and the trendsetter. There's a range of things that can be done, and we'll be showing you how these things work. You want your value proposition to become the dream maker, all right? And we talked to you in previous broadcasts as to how you can make some of these things happen. All right, so it's very, very important for you to think about your value proposition, ensure that it has the strength. And remember, at Venture Capital Inc. Global Branding and Marketing, we have a team of subject matter experts who are there to ensure that they give you that support to build out your business, your ideas, and your brand with local, regional, and international relevance. So we know the last concept, and that is value proposition and corporate purpose. And this remains very, very important. In building your value proposition, it's not only about the strength of the value proposition, it's not only about the characteristics of the value proposition. All of those things are necessary. But something else that I really want to emphasize is that you want to build your value proposition to have real corporate purpose. You know, your purpose is to touch and transform lives. Let's take, for example, you have an educational institution. And your mission is not just to provide an education content and to say to your students that we have the best content, and the onus is upon you to commit the time and the talent and resources to learn the content. That might be good. But in introducing your content, you want to bring your value proposition where you're saying to your students that we will leave no stone unturned to ensure that you get the content. You get the message and content, and you're able to internalize the message and content in such a way to become the best student in applying this message and content to achieve global impact. So your purpose now is not only to cash flow the organization, but your purpose with your value proposition is to impact the lives of every single student. No one is left behind because of the systems that you have created. So beyond the excellent learning content, you incorporate systems that we call mentorship and coaching and additional support that really ensure that the students gets more than the theory of learning, but they get the practical of the learning. From our experience in the research that we're doing, we're seeing that nothing beats practical learning. So in your value proposition, you say you're going to give the theory, but you're also going to give the practical. In fact, in the developed world, when you enter university, you get the theory, but you're also assigned to the relevant organization of your studies where you get the practical. So when you come out of that university, you have both the theory and the practical, and you understand how to move the process forward. Can you imagine that you're training your student electrical engineer and you teach them all the theory, and when they come into a practical world, they just don't know how to apply that because they have never been in the practical scenario? So your value proposition can take all of these things into consideration and make it purpose. This is something that I want to wake up and for, because I'm not just going out there to make money. Money is going to come, but my key focus here is about adding value, fixing problems, about touching and transforming the lives of my consumers. I really care about my consumers and adding values and fixing problems. Your value proposition must be strong enough that can also be purpose driven. You want your value proposition to be this. From the research that we are doing, the experience that we have, when your value proposition takes on this life of its own, it is where you're able to make the strongest impact on first-time users and existing customers. This is what allows you to convert first-time users into lifetime customers, because this entire chain of command in the value proposition, it is all structured to impact the final consumers, both internal workforce and external public, in a way that is highly unusual. This again is why at Global Branding and Marketing and Venture Capital Fund, we have designed a new corporate culture. And we have companies in the developed world that we're talking with and engaging with, and we are now preparing to carry this new corporate culture across the world. All right. Your value propositions is king or queen, whatever you want to call it. So I want to close by quickly saying that the value proposition is a reflection of your corporate culture. And the corporate culture equals the value proposition. You want to keep this in mind. The way we roll out your value proposition is now divorced from your corporate culture. Your corporate culture is your value proposition. It's every single thing that your organization represents. It's not just a statement that you make into your specific target audience. It's a statement, it's a promise that you make into your consumers, and your consumers has two levels. Your consumers are both your internal workforce and the external public. All right? So it's important for you to keep this in mind. The value proposition is a reflection of your corporate culture. The corporate culture is your value proposition. All right. So important concepts for you to keep in mind. The next thing that I want to say, in developing these systems and doing your checklist, you want to be certain that you have a system in place to monitor and evaluate performance on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. You want to have systems that incentivize compliance to your corporate culture. As people function in the organization in alignment to deliver optimum impact with your value proposition in transforming the value proposition to the final consumer, to the general, to the public. We want to ensure that they are recognized and they are rewarded. And again, in our blanket work with self-actualization program, we talk about a range of unique incentivized programs to really keep your team, your staff, highly motivated. All right? So it's important for you to keep these things in mind as you develop your value proposition. All right? The rollout of the value proposition must clearly establish in the minds of all your team members that this is a team effort. All right? Your value proposition is not your value proposition. You might have developed the value proposition, but you want the entire workforce to buy into your value proposition, your entire team to buy into your value proposition. All right, part of your value proposition might be that I will never drop as the manager. I would never drop the mic on my employees because of COVID-19. Or I would never push my team under the bus because of COVID-19. Your corporate culture, your value proposition is proactive. It takes a range of issues into consideration that ensures that you have the social and economic impact systems to address the needs of your team in the event of a national or global crisis like COVID-19, which is now a global pandemic. All right? Your value proposition can speak to all of these things. Let me say this. In the minds of those employers who were laid off after working with companies for many, many years, they were laid off by the boss that said, you are a team member, you're a critical member of the staff. How do you think that they've seen your company? Or how would you rate your company in terms of your value proposition and how your value proposition is impacting your workforce? The people that give blood, sweat, and perhaps tears in the commitment that they bring to move your organization forward. How do you think your team is feeling? The team that was members that was laid off, they have a negative perception of your value proposition. And it's not the end of the world. Those things can be corrected, but the right steps must be taken to correct those things. So I trust that today you enjoy what we looked at. We went deeper into value proposition. And in today's program, we look at value proposition characteristics. We look at strengths of your value proposition. And we also look at the value proposition and corporate purpose. So I really trust that you would have enjoyed today's program. In the event that you're joining me for the first time again, my name is Gary Thompson. I'm a business development consultant by profession. I'm a humanitarian by nature. And I'm the multiple best-selling author for several books, including Billionaire Codes and Managers Toolkit. Now, these two books are already on the bestseller list. They're already bestsellers. You can log on to our company's website, our sister company website, which is www.megamoneygy.com, and you can purchase these books from any part of the world. You can also inbox me in the event that you want me to submit, get these books directly to your desk and within the shortest possible time. What you can also do, you can also subscribe to the website. You can just enter your name and email address, and you will be able to get the daily programs that we continue to publish on that website. I want to encourage you also to go to YouTube and look for Venture Capital Fund under Gary Thompson and like and subscribe to those programs. All right, you will be the first to get these programs on a daily basis to help move your business, your ideas, and your brand forward. In closing, I want to say that at Venture Capital Fund Global Branding and Marketing, we have a team of dynamic persons. We have a team of PFAs, professional financial advisors, personal financial advisors. We have a team of economists, a team of accountants, a team of business consultants with over 75 years of combined experience that are all willing, ready, and able to help you move your business, your ideas, your brand with local, regional, and international relevance. Our organization, our mission is to position our clients, employees, and strategic partners to understand, create, and leverage passive income cash flow in order to build multiple streams of income, leverage smart investment strategies, and build generational and intergenerational wealth. In our program, you will learn about financial intelligence in the commercial financial sector, financial intelligence in the investment financial sector, financial intelligence for smart capital market, and financial intelligence and sustainable livelihood. Most importantly, you will learn that financial intelligence goes beyond your ability to make money and maximize your disposable income. It addresses the issue of understanding the global financial system and leveraging this intelligence to create good debt cash flow, minimize existing debt financial portfolio, while maximizing financial and equity capital gain. The understanding of the commercial financial sector, the investment financial sector, and smart capital market are an important body of knowledge for you to have in the global landscape of financial intelligence. Trust you would have enjoyed today's program, and we look forward to hearing from you. Reach out to us for a free consultation, and let us talk to you about your business. Let us see, what systems we can work with for you to help you to move your business and leapfrog your business more. So feel free to reach out to us, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from you and meeting with you, seeing you on the other side. Be blessed until the next broadcast.